Would you believe me if I told you the worst behaved dogs in the world belong to the people who love them the most? You feed that dog the best food, you let it on the couch, you give in every single time those eyes look up at you, and lately, you have quietly started wondering why it does not really listen anymore. That nagging feeling is real. So today we are walking through 10 signs your dog is secretly spoiled, ranked from the ones you will laugh off to the one that should honestly scare you, and the last one is the one that gets dogs hurt. Sign 10. Your dog turns up its nose at regular dog food. Walk into almost any home in 2026 and you will find a dog that turns its nose up at perfectly good dog food. Though you buy the good food, you read the labels, you pay extra, but your dog stares at that bowl like you insulted its whole bloodline. The kibble sits there for hours because that animal has run the numbers and decided something better is coming if it just waits you out. I understand why you cave, because those eyes were engineered to break you. But every time you sprinkle chicken on top, you are not feeding your dog. You are negotiating with it, and you are losing. Vets even have a quiet name for owners stuck in this trap, calling them the short order cooks, because that is exactly what the dog has turned a grown adult into. There is a woman I read about whose terrier went 4 full days barely eating, so in a panic she kept upgrading the menu from boiled chicken to ground beef to salmon. The dog was not sick at all. It had simply learned that a hunger strike unlocks the luxury tier. Multiply that across millions of homes, and you get the reason roughly 6 in 10 dogs in this country are now overweight, quietly losing years of life to meals that were never meant for them. A dog that turns its nose up at dinner is only warming up, because the second the lights go out, the real takeover begins. Sign 9. Your dog owns the bed and defends it. Around 7 in 10 owners now share the bed with their dog, and I will be honest with you, I have done it too. The warmth and the soft breathing in the dark feel like the closest bond in the world. Yet, this is exactly where the trouble plants its roots. The bed is the single most valuable patch of territory in your dog's entire world. And the moment it sleeps there every night, it stops behaving like a guest and starts believing it is a co-owner. You catch the first cracks in tiny moments, like a low grumble when your partner rolls over, or a flat refusal to climb down when you finally ask. That is not love. That is resource guarding, and behavior specialists have folder after folder of couples living this exact nightmare. One case that stuck with me involved a husband who slept in the spare room for weeks because the family dog had decided his side of the bed belonged to it now and would growl every time he walked in. Once a dog believes it owns the best real estate in the house, it stops requesting things and starts demanding them, and those demands get loud fast. Sign 8. Your dog throws tantrums when ignored. You sit down to take one phone call, and your dog comes undone with pawing, then barking. Then the dramatic collapse against your shins, and the whine that climbs higher the longer you dare to focus on anything that is not them. You read it as pure devotion, but a trainer reads it as a tantrum thrown by an animal that has never once been made to wait for a single thing. A dog that cannot stand being ignored has been handed attention on demand for so long that its absence now registers as genuine panic. Every time you drop everything to hush the barking, you hand the dog fresh proof that the meltdown works. Which means you are not soothing it, you are paying it for the outburst. The twist that gets people is that the kindest owners build the loudest tantrums, because the person who could never bear to see those eyes look disappointed is the very one who raised an animal that cannot sit quietly for 30 seconds. That dog never developed the one skill that keeps it emotionally steady, which is the ability to feel safe without an audience watching its every move. A dog that demands the spotlight inside your home will haul that same entitlement straight out the front door, and the leash is where you see it clearest. Sign 7. The walk happens on dog's terms. This is the sign people laugh about in public and quietly suffer through in private. You clip on the leash, you step outside, and your dog announces that today is simply not a walking day by planting all 4 feet and sitting on the pavement like a one-dog protest. Then comes the carrying, which is its own special heartbreak, because so many spoiled dogs have cracked the secret that going limp and looking pitiful summons a pair of human arms to finish the trip for them. I once watched a woman carry a perfectly healthy beagle across an entire park, its legs swinging in the air, while her own toddler walked beside her on his own 2 feet. The dog was fully able to walk, and had simply decided it was above it. What you are really watching is a dog that has concluded it runs the whole operation, and that confusion bleeds into everything. The walk is supposed to be the daily lesson where your dog practices trusting your lead, so when the dog hijacks it instead, it loses all sense of who is keeping it safe, and that lost feeling becomes the seed of leash lunging and anxious pulling. The same soft heart that carries a healthy dog through the park usually shows up in the bank statement too, and that is where things start to get expensive. Sign 6. Your dog has more stuff than sense. There is a whole style of ownership now where the animal has a wardrobe, a toy basket so deep that half of it has never been touched, a stroller, a heated bed, and a birthday party with a real guest list and a cake. The world now pours hundreds of billions of dollars into pampering pets every year, and a huge slice of that is simply love with nowhere useful to go. I'm not here to shame you, because a warm coat on a freezing morning is genuinely kind, but you cross a line the second the spending stops being about the dog and starts being about how the spending makes you feel. The most famous proof of this is almost too strange to believe. A hotel heiress named Leona Helmsley, the woman the tabloids called the Queen of Mean, left $12 million in her will to a single small Maltese named Trouble, with gourmet meals and round-the-clock guards after the dog started receiving threats. By every account, Trouble was anxious, snappish, and prone to biting the very hands that pampered it. Money can stuff a closet with things your dog never asked for, but the deepest spoiling of all happens at the dinner table, over a habit that feels like nothing at the time. Sign 5. Your dog eats off the table and begs at every meal. The begging dog has become so normal that we have stopped seeing it as a problem at all. You sit down to eat, and there it is, with the locked stare, the chin landing on your knee, and the soft whine that insists you owe it a bite. So, most people surrender the scrap just to make the staring stop. When you feed your dog from your plate, you are telling it that the rules bend the instant it pushes hard enough, and it learns the dangerous idea that your boundaries are up for negotiation and persistence always pays off. That single belief then leaks into everything else, because an animal that wins at dinner quietly assumes it can win anywhere. The damage runs in two directions, because a begging habit becomes nearly impossible to undo once it has been rewarded hundreds of times. And far worse, plenty of what we hand down is silently toxic to dogs. Onions, garlic, the sweetener hidden in sugar-free snacks, grapes, chocolate, and rich fatty leftovers can all wreck a body that was never built for human food. A dog that dictates what happens at the table rarely stops there, because soon it starts dictating the clock for the entire household. Sign 4. The dog runs the household schedule. This one sneaks up so slowly that you never catch the moment it takes hold. The dog wakes you at the same brutal hour every morning, because it decided that is when the day starts. It demands meals at exact times, and it expects the walk and the treat on a timetable. It wrote itself, while your own life quietly reshapes around the preferences of an animal. Dogs genuinely do thrive on routine, and a predictable rhythm is honestly good for them. But there is a world of difference between a dog that trusts the routine you provide and a dog that polices a routine it invented. The first dog melts into your leadership and relaxes, while the second grows tense and rigid, because it now believes that keeping the entire schedule intact is its personal responsibility, and any disruption feels like a threat it has to manage alone. A dog that controls the clock usually starts guarding the people living inside that clockwork. And that possessiveness is the next sign hiding in plain view. Sign 3. The dog guards you like a possession. At first it feels flattering, almost romantic, because your dog presses into your side the second a stranger comes near and growls low when someone leans in for a hug. You tell yourself this is loyalty, that your dog adores you too much to share, but the truth is a good deal colder than that. What you are watching is your dog guarding you the exact way it would guard a bone. Because it has not decided you are precious. It has decided you are property. And property gets defended. This is the same resource guarding that began on the bed, except the resource is now a living human being, which is precisely what makes it dangerous. As friends stop visiting, and a child reaching in for a hug becomes a risk that nobody saw coming. What looked like devotion was an animal exhausted from the full-time job of owning and controlling her. A dog that cannot share you while you are standing right there is almost always the same dog that completely shatters the instant you walk out the door. Sign 2. The dog cannot be left alone. This is the sign that breaks my heart more than any other, because it grows from the purest love and ends in the deepest pain. You can no longer leave the house without a scene, as the dog cries at the door, shreds cushions while you are gone, and paces and barks for hours. So owners come home to claw doors and assume the dog acted out of pure spite. The truth is far sadder, because the dog was genuinely terrified. Separation anxiety is one of the most common and most serious struggles in modern dogs, and spoiling pours fuel right onto that fire. Because a dog that is never left alone and never shown that solitude is safe, never builds the emotional strength to survive your absence. The hidden tragedy is that the most devoted owners cause this the most, since the ones who took the dog everywhere and could not stand the thought of it feeling lonely ended up raising an animal that experiences being alone as total abandonment. That brings us to the final sign, the one that ties every other one together, and the one almost every owner watching refuses to believe applies to them. Sign 1. Your dog ignores commands. Here is the big one, and it is the one you will fight me on hardest. You give a command, and your dog decides whether to obey, because sit is a polite suggestion, come is fully optional, and no is just background noise. And somewhere along the way, you started calling your dog stubborn or sassy, as if it were a charming quirk instead of a serious problem. The hard truth is that your dog does not ignore you because it failed to understand you. It ignores you because you have spent its entire life teaching it that your words carry no real weight. Every command you let slide, And every time you said no and then caved anyway, you proved that your rules are decorations. And a dog is a brilliant reader of consequences who simply learned there are none. This is the most dangerous sign of all, because a dog that will not come when called can bolt straight into traffic, and a dog that ignores a drop, it can swallow something that ends its life. So tell me, how many of these 10 did your dog just fail, and which one hit a little too close to home? Drop your number in the comments because I am reading every single one. Thanks for watching. We will see you in next one.